Picture a family compound on Manasota Key, nearly $5 million, 3 generations under one roof, and a seller 1,000 miles away who never once has to set foot on the property is selling. That's not a hypothetical. That's Tuesday for Tuesday's guest. In the Suncoast luxury market, the agent who win aren't just closing deals. They're building legacies, running cinematic marketing campaigns, and executing 8-figure virtual transactions for snowbirds who trust them with everything from 1,000 miles away. My guest has been recognized by both Forbes and the RealTrends as one of the best in the business. And today she's telling me exactly how she does it and what artificial intelligence still can't replace, what she brings to the closing table. This is Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable. My guest today is Shayla Twit, a Sarasota waterfront specialist with over 20 years in the luxury market, a CLHMS GUILD expert with Corcoran Dwellings, and the U.S. ambassador for the Realty Network. Shayla built her career on a global perspective, internationally connected and multilingual, unafraid to bring cinematic level marketing to properties that most agents would simply list and hope for the best. Along the way, she's been recognized by Forbes and the RealTrends. But what really sets her apart is how she operates, closing luxury transactions completely virtually for absentee owners and snowbirds who trust her with million-dollar decisions from 1,000 miles away. Today, she's positioning one of the most significant listings of her career, a true multi-generational family compound on Manasota Key, and she's about to walk us through exactly how the Suncoast luxury market really works right now. Shayla, welcome to the Brown Table.
Well, it's Shayla, but okay. Hi, thank you.
We didn't go through that in a second. You know, we were talking for 10 minutes, but we didn't introduce ourselves. So Shayla, sorry about that.
Right.
How's your day going so far?
Good, busy as always.
As always, in luxury market. So how does a global background shape a distinct edge in luxury real estate? And what truly sets your approach apart from standard luxury agents?
I think that I am available, and I know that some people like the team aspect and some people don't. You're getting me and you're getting my white glove service and the team behind me, but I am the front person. So you're always going to get me as your main representative for your property, and you'll get me answering calls, texts, emails. There's hundreds of messages between a buyer or a seller during a transaction or the sale of their home, especially, and especially very unique homes that are on the upper tier. So it takes a lot of time and effort and communication. And one of the things is that I set myself apart with is communication, right? I answer the call, and I think that my clients appreciate that. I know that when I'm trying to transact something of higher value, I appreciate that service and the communication, especially myself. So
What do you do in the first 30 days that most agents skip?
So everything that I do is a master task list. So we know that there are certain things that we have to do when we list a property, and everything that I do is a master checklist. And there's a million other things that come in between those that just pop up, and just day to day, that's just life. But everything is a system. Everything is very organized, and I follow these systems, and they work, and they worked for years. So
How do international network ambassadorship and multilingual fluency elevate global exposure for Suncoast properties?
the international aspect, I know a lot of agents say they're international and their brand their brokerage brand is probably international, like Corcoran, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, and the like. But I've actually traveled overseas. I speak French. I speak Turkish. I took French in undergrad. So I speak other languages, and I know the Latin base. So you can kind of pick up on other languages, Spanish. And so you can pick up on that. But I've traveled to Monaco, France, Germany, a couple other places, and actually presented real estate, presented Sarasota as a real estate portfolio option for people overseas. And I've maintained those contacts and just kind of grown my international presence through becoming an ambassador. There's 2 U.S. ambassadors. I'm one of them. And it's just like an international group of agents that kind of network. We're on WhatsApp, we're on social media together. And of course, it's just referral based. What we do is referral based, right? It's who you know. And if you have someone in Switzerland that wants to come, or I have someone that wants to buy in Dubai, like obviously I'm going to look to these networks. I'm going to look to my TRN group, my overseas connections, my institute where I'm a member. These are places that I've probably met the people in person. It's not just a name on a website or whatever. So it's all relationships, what we do.
I love that. I come from a really diverse background myself. I grew up in Hungary. And I was born in Sweden. And I could speak Swedish and Hungarian. So,
Cool.
come on. Yeah. And my wife's fluent. She grew up in Russia. And our kids speak Russian, a few words in Hungarian right now, and of course English. And I would love to hear more about this international part because it sounds interesting to me. We could do that in another conversation. I love that, that you're international because I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
Yeah. The world's getting smaller. And I think that, again, if you know someone, you already have a connection in a certain country or state or city, and you've shook hands with them and looked eyeballs to eyeballs, obviously you're going to send that business to them versus just another name in a sea of realtors. I mean, we've got 7,000 realtors here in Sarasota. So imagine like picking someone in an area that has a ton of realtors too on top of that. It's really hard to select the person, that you would want to work with.
My first broker, I started with Keller down in Miami. She said, this is a book that you need to read or have at home at least, is Kiss, Bow, and Shake Hands. And it's a book about cultures and how each culture will react to, your certain mannerisms, et cetera, et cetera. So it is really interesting. I read the Hungarian part. I'm like, oh, that's dead on. I'm like, definitely how you would want to work with a Hungarian. So I was like, okay, if Hungary, as a small little 10 million person country, checks out in that book, I'm pretty sure he's good with the major players as well.
Right.
It's a really good book, guys. I recommend it to every agent, especially here in Florida, because it's a melting pot of everything. Or if you're in a major city like Orlando, Miami, New York, you should have a copy of that book. And if you meet someone and they tell you where they're from, look it up. Because it
have like a basis understanding for like America's not the only country in the world, and some people haven't traveled, and I think it's good to understand that, especially in larger cities. Like Sarasota has grown a lot, so we do have an influx of more international presence here, although it's primarily people that are moving in and around Florida, but we do have some international inflow too, of course.
Now that we understand what makes you different, let's talk about the elephant in the room, because everyone in this industry is asking the same question right now. Will artificial intelligence ever fully replace the role of high-end real estate agents?
I mean, just like when Zillow came on, right? Did that replace agents? No. I mean, and I think AI is just another tool that can help save agents time. We still have to manage it. We still have to make sure it's accurate and correct, and the voice that we want to present and the way that we want our listings presented or documents read or emails read. I think, I'm still playing with it and still trying to figure out which. I like Gemini a lot. I've kind of not used Chat GPT as much, but I like that you can elegantly create posts or help with your descriptions or sometimes with an email or just a flyer or some type of presentation that you're trying to do, it helps save time. But like, this AI has not been in your home. They have not seen many homes. They have not interacted with people. It's not a human being experience. So, I mean, maybe robots will just take over the world. I don't know. Like replace all of us anyway. I don't know.
I think this. I'm a Claude guy, by the way. Claude's really good. Claude wrote my helpful notes for today. But I see this in our industry, and this is in almost every industry where you have people involved on each side of a transaction or whatever we call it, a deal or interaction. You always going to need a kind of like a mediator in between. So agents shouldn't go away because we are the people that put this tone and then give the tone to the person on the other side how it works best on the other side. We are kind of like a translating machine from, what do you mean 500,000 under asking price? What do you mean? Tell them to go blah 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 blah, and then we're going to have to translate that into, well, the sellers are not super happy about that offer.
Yeah.
But a more aggressive offer, thank you. So that's what we do instead of the seller yelling at the other person. And I think that AI can't do that. Like, it's not the funneling time. The other thing is, as you said, AI hasn't been in the homes, hasn't seen that many homes, doesn't know what the home needs for repairs yet, et cetera. So it might get to the point where you could go around with a phone and scan the whole house, and it will give you accurate estimates on how much each repair will cost, but we're not there. And that's the reason why pricing with AI, it could give you like a general idea, but it won't give you like an more accurate, in detail market data, et cetera, et cetera. You can pull all that stuff together, but you need someone to comprehend every information that comes out.
Well, it's not even just that. It's like I had a listing on a busy road. It was a tough sell. It was a brand new house. They wanted over $1 million on a really busy road. And I had to go there so many times. If I hadn't gone over there countless times to check the property, show the property, open it up, half the time there was always an issue every time I went. So if I hadn't gone there to open up and accompany the listing, get there in advance, sweep the front, make sure it's clean and presentable. One time I went, the AC stopped working because the construction was really not, to say poor is giving it a compliment. It was just really poor quality construction, but it was a large home, but it was on a busy road and all these issues. So every time I would go, there'd be a problem. It would like smell like sulfur because there's building going around behind it. There were issues, there were bugs, there were just whatever, the smells, the smell of all the senses, right? You need to be aware of as an agent coming in. Does it smell nice? Is it clean? Is it presentable? Is the furniture, is there not, and that means a lot for a buyer. It's like that's their first impression, right? And you're giving the seller a service by showing up, especially for the upper tier. They expect it here in this market. And right. And so in this particular property, yes, it's vacant. You could go in and out easily. But like, if I want to actually facilitate a sale, not waste my time and actually close this, I'm here to close deals, not just take listings. I'm here to close them. Right. And what does that take? Is your AI going to do that? No. So you're hiring me for that extra service that I pay attention. I go and I show up, I communicate. And how many times you call and have like dialing the options or whatever, it's like you don't get a human, and it's so frustrating. You're like, representative, you want your representative to answer the phone instead of having like the computer constantly. It's just like, it gets overwhelming and annoying after a while.
For sure, I agree with you. I mean, I notice myself when I'm present, it doesn't matter if it's a $300,000 house or a $2 million house. If the listing agent is present, there is probably 20, 30, 40% chance higher of that house going under contract than if we're not present.
You can answer questions quicker, overcome objections faster, show them something of value that maybe they can't see readily. Like maybe there's a hidden something in the walls that's just really unique, and and plus the sellers just like they don't want lock boxes for these houses, and some of them are gates behind gates, and like you being there, it just makes the buyer's experience so much more pleasant. Show up, give them a bottle of water, here's the file, like here's a nice presentation to give them so they can refer to while they're walking through on a nice thick stock piece of paper. It's just all the senses.
So, how is modern technology leveraged to enhance cinematic marketing without losing personal connection? And where does human negotiation remain completely irreplaceable?
I mean, that was a long question, but I guess there's basically what we do as realtors is we solve problems, right? First, it's the visual presentation and hiring a photographer, videographer, cinematography, however you want. We've had to become like producers, like we're doing these videos for ourselves, videos for the properties. We have to, again, it's a first impression. We're giving that first impression online to get them in the door. And just when they're in the door, solve problems, answer questions. And then when you're under contract, solving more problems, questions, inspections, appraisals. So it really is. I love before we started recording, is like when people say we just open doors, there's like 1,000,000% more to what we do. And yeah, you can hire a flat rate agent. It's just like anything, you get what you pay for. Good luck getting them on the phone.
Well, you can go over there and open the doors while you're working. It's a great way of losing money every single time.
And the inaccuracy that some of these agents put out, or just leaving a lot of the information blank, that's just not completed when they just throw it up in the MLS, and it's just like really haphazard way of doing business. I'm just really thorough, detail oriented. I ask a lot of questions. I don't send an assistant to the home initially because I walk through every nook and cranny of the home, because while I'm doing that, I'm looking everywhere in every room, because it's the detail, it's important in order to come together and create like a vision for the property. So I can't just send someone. I mean, I know a lot of agents do that, but that's just my process of how I do things.
I wrote a book on, by the way.
You did?
I did. And they wrote it to sellers because, hey, Mr. Seller, this is what you think your home is worth because you're looking at Zillow. But here's my book, and please go through it from the front yard, start in the front yard, and go through the house as the book describes for you. It has note-taking sections and everything. So you cannot make a first impression twice. You can only make a first impression once. And that's the whole point of the book. It's like, before we even consider signing an agreement about going on the market, you should consider what you could do to your home before we hit the market so we can get the best price possible. You could get top dollar for your home that you're looking at Zillow. And a lot of these things is just organize the yard, put the toys away, declutter the home, put your, memorabilia from your 20-year-old, when you were a 20-year-old football, fan, put those away in a box for now. They don't need to be on the wall. Not everybody's a Knicks fan, or not everybody's a, Patriots fan. You got to remove those things. And it goes through item by item. Check the AC. How old is your AC? How old is your roof? How old is your water heater? Know these facts about your home before we go on the market. And I'll be here to help you. If you need to have any questions, I can tell you how to check these things. But if your AC is 15 years old, but it's purring like a kitten, I'm like, the inspector is going to flag it. And they're going to tell you it needs to be replaced. And it's an $8,000 cost to an AC replacement right now. So guess what? Your house is already $8,000 less. But if you get someone to replace that AC for you, and you might be able to get a better deal on it, you might be getting it for $6,000, and now you're $2,000 up.
Right. I try to give people like the absolute worst case scenario so that when none of the things that I talked about came up, or it's like way less. It's a fraction of what I prepared them for. They're like, okay, that wasn't bad. Instead of, because I have one smaller transaction, they're friends and they're selling and they're buying, so it's a small little modest home. But I was so worried that, like the roof and the AC and the plumbing, just all these things. I was like, it's going to come all together because on top of that, it's an FHA buyer. So I was like, I'm worried about this. And like the world is collapsing, the apocalypse is coming, just be prepared. And then it turned out the buyer was so realistic, and the appraiser was great, and they didn't make any notes. And it was like, oh. So we got kind of lucky in the way that all happened. But I'd rather prepare a seller for like the worst case scenario too. And then they're just like, oh, versus you didn't tell me any of this was going to even be a possibility, especially for people that haven't bought and sold a lot of property. They don't know what they don't know. This is like the only house he ever bought. And so it's kind of like a first time buyer in some cases. It's totally different for the savvy snowbird second home vacation type buyer. They're just, it's just a different set of circumstances, different seller type, different buyer types. So you just got to know your audience.
Yeah, for sure. I have an insight for this segment. In high net worth transactions, the agent's judgment during negotiation, reading a counterparty, timing a counteroffer, managing emotions remains the single largest lever on final sales price. No platform has automated that yet. So let's bring this to life with something real, because you've got a listing right now that tells the whole story better than any theory. What's driving the current multi-generational shift in luxury buyer preferences? And how is a landmark listing like 756 North Manasota Keys strategically positioned as a true family compound?
So this is a property that the selling points are that it's a very unique proposition for an estate, meaning it's Gulf to Bay. This same property just to the north, Casey Key, Siesta Key, would probably be close to double. If that property were on Longboat Key, which is, these are all markets that I work from south to north, it would be a lot more. So you're presenting a property that is offering this truly unique Gulf to Bay gated private compound on 155 feet wide beach property. And we've had some very bad storms here, as the world knows, 100-year storms. And this house sits at 12.9 feet. So it did have a little tiny bit of water that came in, but no flooding, no damage. And as a matter of fact, because houses that have like a lot of cypress doesn't need to be remediated. It's crazy, right? So it's not like drywall where you have to like pull it up to like X amount of percentage. It's like water to here, but you have to pull it up for here. It just dries out. So they had fans in it. But anyway, so because it sits at 12.9 feet and there's large berms on either side, it was very protected. And so it's a big draw because it's stood the test of time. And it's a very charming home. You have the beach, you have the boating, and you kind of have it all. And you're not too far from anything like amenities. So
I like that.
it's very, when you walk in a home and it just feels good and it feels warm and you feel cozy and just, it's that home.
What do you have it priced at right now?
We've got it down to, we've had a couple of price improvements, but it's currently at just under 4.5.
It's a great price. You get boating and you get ocean.
Wow. I mean, and most of the lots are 100 feet wide. They're mostly 1 acre parcels. This is 155 feet, so you get that extra beach frontage. You get sunsets, nightly, and sunrises off your dock.
I don't know which way.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. And it's a 2-mile stretch of gated private, whereas the rest of the island, the south part of Manasota Key, is not gated. So it's unique in that way. Like, it's kind of I don't know if you've been to Casey Key.
No, I have not been on that side that much. I've been to Fort Myers, but haven't been to yet. Been to Tampa a few times.
Yeah, so it's like people that know Casey Key, not Spielberg, but what's the thriller art author? that writes all these like scary.
Scorsese?
No, I know Oprah and Rosie O'Donnell have owned on Casey Key, lots of big names. There's a lot of big names, very, very wealthy, but very understated wealth on Manasota Key. Very much Midwest, like a lot of the southwest part of Florida is. So like the people are just super friendly in general. And yeah, like I said, it's a 2 mile stretch behind the gates. And so it's unique in that way. And it's also just easy to get off the island on the north side. So it's a really cool property, really private, generational in that the grandkids can go upstairs on the other part of the house that's kind of separate and private. So it's fun for that. And you have this nice little main house.
I love the size of the lot too for that price. I mean, 4.5 million per acre lot on the ocean. That's a pretty good steal in itself. And you could get
So
our area is probably a couple million, 1.5 million, 2 million just for the lot. For that size lot on the ocean, and we don't have both ends. Like we don't have boating end. You either get ocean or you get river. That's what you get.
Well, I just sold one on the same island for it. It's a 0.44 acre parcel on the beach side, but no boating. So it's much smaller lot. And I sold that for $950. That was, that had a house on it. I had the house listed before the storms and then it totally got demolished, like literally leveled. It was the red roof house on everybody knew the red roof house on Manasota Key got totally leveled. And then they listed it too high with another agent. And then I took it over. And that's why I always say, I'm happy to be the second or the third agent on a listing because I want to have the listing when it sells, not when it's too high. I mean, and like you win some, you lose some. Sellers don't always want to hear that. They're not ready for that, but I want the listing when it sells.
Yeah, every experienced agent knows that.
You too? Hey, you too? Weird. You don't just list to list property.
It's one of the first things I learned. Okay.
Yeah.
These people are first agent shoppers. Let them have it. We're not negotiating on our prices or values or anything else. This is our numbers. If they don't like it, they can go with another agent. Yeah.
And it's always like, I always feel bad when I don't get the listing too, but then when they do call, like when he called, he was like, Shayla, you were right. He's like, and a lot of people don't do that because they have to swallow their pride and they don't want it. And I understand. And even if they're like, she was right, ooh, but I can't work with her because I can't call her. But like, I understand that. That'd be hard for me too. Like, I thought it was worth this, and then now it's actually worth this. And it's just a hard reality that I don't like. Listen, I would rather sell it for more. I get paid more. You're paid more. Everybody's really happy, and I just can't control the market. So.
What design and lifestyle elements elevate a coastal estate into an enduring multi-generational asset?
So in this case, they added square footage above the garage, which is already a 3-car garage. So because of the nature of those properties out there, they're larger lots. So it demands like more space. And so it was very smart of them to add an extra almost 1,000 square feet to justify, a lot of people want like a little bit more space out there. And you'd be surprised, actually, a lot of people from Tampa and Orlando come down to buy like weekend places here just for weekend getaways. And the last beachside house I sold on Manasota, they own downtown Sarasota, which is not that far of a drive, but they just wanted to have a weekend getaway, right on the beach. And so that's a lot of the clientele down there, just kind of like a getaway, and not a lot of like rental kind of stuff or anything.
So let's zoom out from one listing to the whole market, because headlines about Florida real estate rarely tell the full story. You and I both know that. Why is it essential to segment the condo market out of general market health conversations, and how are high net worth buyers evaluating luxury waterfront inventory in today's economic climate?
So the first question there, condos, you always have to take out condos from single family, because whenever I'm talking about the market, the health of the market, condos and villas and townhomes do this. So the single family home market is just more stable over the historic data. So when I talk about it, I segment the condos out because it's not, otherwise it's too confusing, right? It's not indicative of actually what's going on in the market. So that's why we do that. And so the single family home market is very healthy. We've had our highest sale in Sarasota was 30 million on Longboat Key. That I think closed late last year. And we also have the Waldorf Astoria going up, which has water views. It's interior city downtown. That penthouse is going for 30 million. And the theme is water view, like your second question, the second part of that question. And that doesn't get old, right? Especially unobstructed water views. That's always going to be a demand for that. The interior city and some of the city kind of views will change over time, especially if you're not right on the water. So there's always going to be a premium for properties that you can't change the location, but you can always update the inside. So it's always going to garner a premium.
And it's a walking distance from shopping and restaurants, etc.
Right. In some cases, yeah, it's hard. The walkability is hard here, except for certain pocket areas or downtown, the inside downtown.
Same thing in Miami. I used to be a Miami agent. Brickell, insane prices. You drive hour and a half away from like downtown Miami, and you're like, oh, you can get a condo for 185. I'm like, that was back like 7, 8 years ago. But not anymore. Yeah. But it's
right.
It's still like you drive to like South Lauderdale, like Davie, and you could get a condo for 165, 120 some places, and then you go downtown Brickell and there's nothing under like $600,000, $700,000, and you get a one bedroom because your ability to restaurants, shopping, you're in the downtown center area, all the people, life is hustling and bustling. It's not sleeping there. You get views of the Atlantic Ocean and different keys. It's insane, And that's the market. Mm-hmm. But then you look at single family market and you look out your window and you see in Miami you were seeing what is it called? Miller Island or whatever it's called, Star Island. And you're like, okay, there's the owner of Viagra. This house with his $20,000 per palm tree or $100,000 per palm tree from Africa imported for him. You could count them. There's like 30 of them, like, okay, so just the palm trees were $3 million to put in.
Insane. It's insane.
This mansion in the middle of Miami, it's probably the same thing in the keys that you're selling. It's like, okay, this part has, as you said, Oprah used to own here, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. You're like, it's gated community with acre lots. That's pretty decent on an ocean, especially in Florida.
That's why I'm like, it's such a unique island, and it's just that it's close to Sarasota, it's close to the action, and it's still understated, and it's still, got room to grow in terms of value there, and I think it's great. So I started getting calls down in Manasota, kind of not directly at first, and then I thought, I might as well take the extra drive. I mean, I'm here. I'm driving down for the 7-figure generally properties. It's waterfront, it's luxury, it's in my wheelhouse. So, and it's just, people are great. And I the first time I drove down there, I was like, dang, this is far. It's like anything. Like first, when I moved here, I was like driving from Sarasota to the north side of Longboat, and it just feels like forever. It's all relative, and you got to go where the business is. And, traffic has gotten busier, and just everything used to take 15 minutes. Now it's like 30, and it's all good. It's part of being an attractive place to live and own. So it's part of the territory, I guess. People learn about Sarasota.
For sure. I mean, I told what you're saying. Like, I get the phone calls about people trying to refer me business in certain parts of Orlando. It's like, I cover Orlando, a part of it, but it depends on the price. Like, I'm not going to drive to, South Orlando. It's an hour in high traffic. It's an hour and a half, for a $300,000 listing. If you're giving me like a $2-3 million listing, we could talk about me taking care of.
I'll be driving.
It's fine for that. Like my top sale was 6.3. Okay, I drove every oceanfront on our coast from Basically, I think it was Cocoa Beach, Melbourne, all the way from Melbourne all the way up to Jacksonville. And we looked at every available property in that stretch. I'm not talking about a small distance here. You know,
Right.
I didn't know back then it was 6.3 because she was looking for 3. But
how many county differences then?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's how I gauge it because I work a 3-county area
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
But
which a lot of agents don't. They just stick to like their small little baby tiny area, and it's like I like the diversity. I don't want to work not smart either. Like we're basically trying to work smart, not like hard, because I've been doing this since 2002. I feel like I put my time in. I've done all that. It's time to work. There's a time to work hard and a time to work smart. But yeah, 3-county area is large. Really, if you had to drive that whole thing, it takes a while.
Like once every 2 weeks because she lived in Miami, so she drove.
Yeah, but
2 weeks. Look at this area now. It's like, yeah, I'll schedule. Which ones are your top picks? I think these ones are suited. Okay, so these 3 houses we're going to look at. I took the family.
Boom, boom, boom.
Drove down. We looked at the stuff. Not really my cup of tea. Let's keep looking. Okay, so next one, until we found one that was like a mini motel in St. Augustine that had its own story, was an owner's apartment. First and second story was 10 bedrooms, 10 different rooms. Mm-hmm. Boutique motel. It had a rooftop.
That's cool.
On the river.
That's really cool.
2 pools. A restaurant area. It was really I'm like, oh, this is really nice,
So they bought that one. So that's really neat and good ROI and good write-off.
Because it was, higher market. So I'd say ROI wise, she's kind of breaking even on it. If she is right now, because it was a seller finance deal at the end of the day. She had about $3 million to put in, so she put in 50%, and then over 50% was financed. And it wasn't a bad rate. I think she got like a 4 or 5% interest on it, which
that's really
decent. But it's only 10 rooms, and 10 rooms don't generate, unless it's like, every time rented out, as much as that it should be generating. I think the 10 rooms, to be honest, if it's ran well and everything's pumping, probably it could be rented for $300, $400, $500 a night because it's boutique, and it's on a really nice part of St. Augustine. So yeah, it's a cool place. If you know any buyers, let me know. Shayla, you just handed our audience something they can't get from a listing photo or a market report. 20 years of global high-touch expertise condensed into a real look at how the Suncoast luxury market actually works. Here's a takeaway I want everyone to remember. Technology can amplify a luxury listing, but it will never replace the trust, the negotiation, and the local expertise that close an 8-figure deal. Shayla Twit is proof of that. And right now, she's got one of the most compelling listings on the Suncoast, 756 North Manasota Key, a true legacy family compound listed at $4.5 million. Go find her at Sarasota realestatesold.com. Connect with her on LinkedIn and Facebook at Shayla Twit, and keep an eye out for her upcoming YouTube channel, monthly market breakdowns, and neighborhood tours for anyone watching the Suncoast. She's also U.S. Ambassador for the Realty Network, connecting Suncoast properties to buyers around the globe. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or simply understanding what's happening in coastal Florida real estate right now, today's conversation is the one to share. Subscribe, leave a review, and follow Shayla for more. And join us next time on Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable. Until then, go build your kingdom. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.